Budhu will discuss the resource constraints. He is at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, has been there since 1998. I consider him one of my finest legacies to the laboratory because I chaired the search committee that found him and brought him to the lab, and I've always felt that was probably the best thing I left behind when I left. He took ORNL's geographic research programs to the next level and beyond. He expanded Landscan, the global population database that is world standard. He integrated geography, high-performance computing, and artificial intelligence. He is a corporate fellow of the lab. He's also an AAG fellow and a AAAS fellow. Budhu, would you come and speak?
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry, for the generous introduction. It's a pleasure being here, my second time in a row. Last year I was here and I shared a secret, but since May showed that slide about the evolution of AI in geography and mentioned Jerry did his 83 paper on automated geography, I feel compelled to share the other secret again. The 2017 Mao et al. Report that May you referred, actually Yano had nothing to do with it. Huina Mao, who is the author of that report, she was a young Leon Russell fellow working with me at Oak Ridge, and she was a computer scientist, or she still is a computer scientist, from Indiana University. And her claim to fame was she wrote a famous paper of predicting stock market from Twitter feeds, and that sent ripples through the economics world. So she came to work, followed her husband, who was an AI scientist in my group, and she got fascinated by geography, and my job was to put, every time she would come to discuss a concept, I would try to put geography in her thinking process. So Huina wrote this proposal, workshop proposal for 2017 ACM6 Spatial, and she comes back into my office very excited saying, my workshop proposal got accepted, but with one critique. The ACM committee said that this is ACM6 Spatial meeting. It needs to have a more catchy name. So we started spitballing names, and at one point of time, Huina said, what do you think about GeoAI? And I said, it is as vague as everything else we have said so far. So she used that term, and it stuck, okay? So that's the secret of GeoAI, but I'm glad that it is there. So Jerry asked me to talk about the aspects of energy coming from a Department of Energy lab. We had a water workshop a couple of years back, and I talked about AI and water. So Jerry got fascinated with it, and he asked if to come here and share with this in an impact of energy at this growing GeoAI industry. So one thing I will say at the very onset is AI is a dominant force in the energy and water industry sector, okay, before I go anywhere. It is driving the need for energy, especially electricity and water, but AI is very much also being used in those sectors for automating a lot of the operations, making the grid secure from AI attacks, and also optimizing generation, consumptions, distribution. So AI is pervasive in those two sectors. The rest of the story is a little scary and depressing, okay? But it is important for us to acknowledge what the consequences are. It takes enormous amount of energy to run the data centers and the high-performance computers that are behind the engines of AI. So I just came in this morning from St. Louis. I was at the Supercomputing 25 conference, the largest congregation of high-performance computing industry from across the world. And I witnessed, I was present on Monday afternoon when the top 500 were revealed, the top 500 computers in the world, known. Okay? So we are at Oak Ridge. We are a large computing organization. We run big computers for driving AI-driven science. And just for fun, I will do this exercise, okay? So everybody in here, if you add 1.5 with 0.5, everybody there with me? Everybody added that? Okay. So the big machine that sits, that the number 2 machine in the world, called Frontier, if every one of us did one of those calculations, 1.5 plus 0.5 equals 2, every second, and everybody on the planet did one of those every second, what we would do in an entire year, Frontier does it in 1 second. Okay? So that's the thing. It is a 40 megawatts of power that comes in. These large data centers that are getting set up to support AI, by 2030, the demand of that is going to increase by 945 terawatt hours. Okay? That is the equivalent of how much electricity Japan consumes today. Of the 945 terawatt hours, almost close to 50% of that will come from the US, and most of the rest will come from China and Europe. And what was fascinating to me is this top 500 list that was revealed on Monday night. There is another list that comes with it. It's called Top 500 Green Supercomputers of the World. That is, which are the most energy efficient supercomputers of the world. Of the top 10 of the green list, 8 are from Europe, 1 from South Korea, and the number 10 on the list is from the US. It's a Microsoft machine. The top green one is number 400 something on the top 500 list. Okay? So it is an incredible amount of energy that we will have to generate, and I'll get to what is the challenge with that. The second thing is AI is thirsty. It's not just hungry for electricity, it's extremely thirsty for water. The part we know is about, what does it take to cool one of these large computers. So the one that we have at Oak Ridge, Frontier, it takes about 6,000 gallons of water per minute to cool that machine. So about 600,000 plus gallons per year. The other one that Jerry was fascinated with, which I looked up, is every time you Google something, it uses about 1 tablespoon of water. It's equivalent of 1 tablespoon of water. If you use ChatGPT, it's about 20 times as much. So one ChatGPT conversation, which is about 4 prompts, it's about 1 8 or 12 ounce bottle of water. Okay? So if there are 100 million users, which is not 8 billion people in this planet, 100 million users are using ChatGPT at any point of time, that is 20 Olympic-sized pool full of water that are being consumed to support that 100 million conversations. And this does not include the extra amount of water that we need to generate some of the electricity that fuels these large computers. Okay? So that water is not part of this assignment. So water is going to be a crazy, it's an incredibly important resource that we have to think about. I thought about the word emerging GeoAI industry, and I'm conflicted because when I looked at tech's magnificent 7 that are driving the market today, I see all of them in the GeoAI business. I do not know who is not today in the GeoAI business. So I don't know whether I should call that, it's an emergent or has emerged. The GeoAI industry has emerged. So now we had Google Maps. Now we have everybody's maps being integrated with the large language models in the background, so you can ask questions, text prompts questions to interrogate with the maps. Autonomous driving, which is NVIDIA's big bet, is also part of GeoAI industry, so that is also important. But this map is something that is revealing. This is a recent Bloomberg study. This is how much electricity prices have gone up for consumers in the last 5 years. Okay? So everything in yellow, all the way up to 200% increase. So the question is why, and the answer is these large data centers need this additional power. They are putting generation, what is called behind the meters. That means if you put in your home a solar panel, you are not regulated. You can generate as much as you want. There is no regulation on your generations. So these large companies like Elon Musk's Memphis operations, he is setting up his own data centers behind because he cannot rely. But anybody who is drawing from the public utilities, the additional cost for building the infrastructure to generate the extra energy is not proportionally borne by the data center. It's borne by the things. So it is a real concern. Water is very less understood at this point because the utilities are fragmented, and we don't understand how much the consumers are going to be impacted. So thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Chris Duncan. He started his career as an insurance analyst at Ford Motor Company and got involved in some very big things there. Then he was director of risk at KFC, Frito-Lay, and we kidded him about what kind of risk there might be, and then there was a terrorist attack on a KFC in Lima, I think it was, and we realized he was facing a lot more than we'd imagined. He founded the first GIS unit in quick service for delivery mapping at KFC. He kept the airlines flying on September 11th, and I mean that very literally. He was vice president and chief risk officer for Delta Airlines on September 11th. He faced the shutdown of the airlines, and he came up with a solution and built a team of insurance and aviation managers. They went to Congress and got a cap on the damages that the airlines would have to pay if they flew. It was illegal for them to fly until they got that straightened out. He co-founded Decisely Insurance Company, and he was chief growth officer at Epic Insurance Corporation. He served 2 terms on the AGS Council. He promoted GIS and AI education at Mars Hill University, and he co-founded Dry Ridge Brewing. Chris, would you come to the podium?
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Chris Duncan, and I'm not a geographer. My very first AGS counselor meeting, I was on the council for 8 years, I had imposter syndrome. I walked in and there was a room filled with counselors who were absolutely brilliant, and I felt totally out of place. I feel out of place today. I'm a big fan of geography, but I'm a retired businessman and an entrepreneur, and now I teach at Mars Hill University where I integrate AI into the classroom. I'm hoping that this outside lens might be helpful in today's conversation because we need more geographers for the future of GeoAI, not less. Yet when you look at the facts simply are, in the last 50 years since 1970, the degrees granted in the United States have increased over 300%. Yet the degrees granted in the world of geography have only increased 150. In fact, if you just do the fair share math, we should be graduating over 11,000 graduates in geography each year, yet we graduate about 5,300. The work hasn't changed. What has changed, though, is that the world of geography is fragmented and dispersed into other sciences. I think that's a mistake. In the meantime, we have students in the audience, and I got a chance to talk to just a couple of you guys, before the break. I love my students at Mars Hill. But the students today, whether you're in high school or early college, that's when you make your choices of who you're going to be when you grow up. You choose your field and your career because someone influenced you, because someone told a story, because someone gave you a life experience like coming to New York and showing off your expertise and your experience, and that changes your life and you choose from there. Well, the problem is when students, young people worldwide, not just the United States, but anywhere in the world, don't have the opportunity to be exposed to the world of geography at that pivotal point in their life, we fail as an industry to build the pipeline of future geographers. Now, I think there's a partial solution to this. The good news is that technology, AI in particular, actually blows a hole in the wall that keeps us from mass sampling, experiencing the world of geography. So the internet itself broke open education. It is disintermediating what I do for a living today. The internet itself now has broken the geography of teaching from a place at a university with someone like me behind the lectern, and has allowed learning across space and time. AI closes the loop on the biggest challenge that the internet-based learning has experiences. AI allows personalized learning, meeting the student where the student is in their learning, in their education, in their geography, at any place at any time. Now, I'm awfully thirsty after listening to his presentation. We're going to use a lot of water in geo-education, but I would argue that AI itself is part of the solution for building the next generation of geographers. Now, I'm running this new model in the wild. At Mars Hill, we're a very small, tiny university. We don't have a lot of resources. We don't have a beautiful auditorium like this. But it's a great leveler for someone like me because I use AI. I built specific custom class assistants for my classes that tutors the students, that coaches them when they miss class. When you guys miss a class, you do a makeup with AI. You're never talking to me as the professor, and it's actually testing you to see whether or not you know my content. All of this has enabled my students to rise up and to level up at much more powerful and well-funded universities because of AI. At the same time, myself as an instructor is 2 to 3 times more efficient than I was 3 years ago. And I'm able to invest that time in my students to help motivate and influence them on the career path that I'm hoping that they will choose. Now, this works. But I have a question for you. My question is, what if every curious person on the planet, hopefully one that's not calling me right now, were to run this new model? What if every curious person on this planet had the opportunity to access basic geoeducation where they're at? Could we, in fact, apply AI itself to the world of geography so that any inquiring mind, anyone, anywhere, anytime, could learn the basics of geography? That's not a substitute for the professional geographers in the room. You can't change the impact of being in Dr. Marie Price's classroom. But so many people will never have the opportunity to be at the instructor's classroom. But they can be on their computer with AI, learning about the concepts of geography, and maybe, just maybe, inspiring them to pursue a career in physical, human, regional geotech. So I'm a businessman, I'm not a geographer. In the business world, when you have innovation and you're trying to scale innovation, there are generally 3 choices. You can build it We're building AI centers across the world at this point. You can, and I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like for not a data center, but a self-service GeoAI education facility. Or you can buy one. Well, the problem is the AGS doesn't have a whole lot of money, and they can't go out and buy a technology platform. So the final one is partnering, and I actually think that that's a pretty decent option. I would like to introduce you to a DIY kit that I put together in 2 hours. Von Humboldt AI. By the way, that's a mouthful. I just learned who the founder of geography was, and I can't even pronounce that name, and yet here I am with Von Humboldt AI. But I built this in 2 hours, and this is a website, and it's attached to custom GPTs that I built that has custom curated material that can allow anyone, anywhere, at any time to meet the student where they're at. If you are at the 8th grade education level, or if you're in the middle of a foreign country and your education system is lacking, it tests you to see where you're at, and then it adjusts the material to help you explore the world of geography. And I'd encourage you, I'm sure we'll share this, but try it out. It'll be out there for a while. It's on my own personal GBT account. In 2 hours, I built this, and it costs $55 a month to maintain. The world of technology and the advances in AI has put into the hands of regular novice people like me the ability to build technology applications that can reach anyone in the world. As an entrepreneur who has built technology companies, to do this 3-4 years ago would have cost several $1 million. I did it in 2 hours and $45 to $55 a month in maintenance costs. But with this, I would argue there's an opportunity for us, for students, millions worldwide, to sample engaging geography and to step through the door and learn about it. And maybe, just maybe, some of those students out there that are engaging with this might choose a new career. And we can fill the future with new geographers. So the final one I'll leave you with is this: partnering, build by partner, remember? So anyone ever heard of the Khan Academy? Yeah, everybody knows the Khan Academy. Here's a couple of factoids. They reach 100 million people a year in 50 different languages globally. There is not a single geography course to be found on the Khan Academy platform. Geography is embedded in all other courses that are in there. What a wonderful opportunity, AGS or some other society, were to actually partner with the Khan Academy to deliver geographic content that anyone in the world could sample, and maybe, just maybe, out of the millions that might try this, might look into it, they might decide to pursue a career. And those future career choices fills the informed geographers and informed thought leaders that are going to use AI, GeoAI in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Farhana Hasan. She was an AI leader at Delta Airlines. In that role, she produced Delta's first on-time performance forecasting model. She drove technology integration for global alliances, the SkyTeam IT Executive Board, which stretches to other airlines. She built cross-functional intelligence capabilities, modernized Delta's decision systems, and then she founded Her Will to empower women worldwide, emphasizing STEM, data science, and AI.
Thank you, Dr. Dobson, for the kind introduction, and thanks to Geography 2050 for this amazing conversation that we urgently need. So if Chris felt the imposter syndrome, then last time I took geography when I was in 9th grade. So imagine my feelings What I am going to talk about is the human parts, what you're mapping, what you're seeing, and the stories, the human infrastructure behind GeoAI. So I am the founder and CEO of Her Will. It's a global nonprofit working worldwide to build the next generation of tech leaders in data science and AI from underrepresented background. And in doing so, I would like to start with, let's see if I know how this thing works. Oh, good, okay. So yeah, my story. When you look at me, I'm pretty sure you see an immigrant success story, probably a woman who made it. But the truth is, I'm not supposed to be on this stage. It was sheer luck that brought me to the United States, and it was relentless hard work that kept me there. My field, data science and artificial intelligence, the foundation of artificial intelligence, opened rooms for me where women are barely seen. And after years of working in global systems, I realized that that shouldn't have been the case. And I wasn't the rule, I was the exception, an exception with mathematical predictability. Because geography, where you're born, where you migrate, or where you're displaced, shouldn't determine the trajectory of your life. It's the talent that should. And GeoAI simply makes that measurable. So with that question, I started asking, why does brilliance have a zip code? Why is it that bias in AI, we all know that it exists everywhere in AI, but when it's in GeoAI, it becomes spatial. And the entire region, when it becomes spatial, the entire region's dialects and demographics disappear in the data sets. And what happens with that incomplete and biased data sets? And that's what kept us moving, that it's not just an AI problem, it is a GeoAI problem. Because the data, the world reflects the world's inequalities. And that made me start imagining a scenario. What if the next great innovator is not from Colombia, but from a coastal area in Bangladesh? And the next great insights come from areas and communities that are living in climate vulnerable regions. And that question, that imagination, made me answer the digital disparity questions. AI is moving faster than any industrial revolution before us. But is everyone being a part of it? About 2 out of 3 AI unicorns live in this small part of the world, Silicon Valley. And 2.6 billion people are out of internet. They have no access because the system is designed for them to not log in. And 1/3 of world's jobs, 1/3 of world's jobs are at risk of being disappeared because of automation. And that brings me to the question, if AI can cross borders effortlessly, why is opportunity still chained to geography? So that question became a blueprint. And that blueprint became Her Will, Women Inspired in Life and Leadership. Because every project here at Her Will becomes a portfolio. And that portfolio becomes visibility. That visibility to employers, universities, scientists, and researchers, making a pathway for mobility, economic mobility. Because when women rise, data ecosystems expand, labor markets rise. Where a woman in Atlanta, Dhaka, Damascus, Cairo, Toronto can participate in global economy without a visa or a Silicon Valley badge or perfect English, that's when we all rise together. And GeoAI requires data labelers, data annotators, model trainers. Where are those people? Are we all representing them? Everything that we are all doing here, all the scientists, are we putting all those pixels together in the map to make it a world that looks like the ones who are building them? So with that, it's working. That blueprint has worked in the last 4 years. And we have shown the world that we have trained about over 5,500 women around the world in more than 6 countries, given about 400 plus scholarships, and built a community of 60,000 brilliant women worldwide. And that is the knowledge gap that we wanted to bridge. And sorry, my my presentation is a little. I should have learned how to use this thing beforehand. Hold on one sec. Nope, not the right way. Yeah. Okay, and internally, how are we doing this? Internally, we have a very simple model. You learn, work, earn, and lead. So, and then repeat. What's happening here? Look at Carol, who lives in a war-scarred city in Syria. She started as a boot camp participant, then became a team leader, and became country manager in Syria. And then Tahia also started as an intern, and started doing leading functional teams and leading national programs in Bangladesh. Raima was also an intern and became a global mentor and instructor. Now is a graduate student at Harvard Graduate School and one of the most competitive programs in the world. So this is how we're doing it internally. Outside, in Bangladesh, what are we doing? The women we trained just built an AI career guide that is translated in Bengali. What happens when the technology you're built doesn't speak the language of millions? And that is exactly what we are doing. The language is a very GeoAI specific issue. So Bangladesh lives at the front line of climate processes. So what happens in class when cyclones, flooding, and heat, when our learners build tools in Bangla, they make climate intelligence accessible to the very communities living inside that data. Same thing in Syria. This is Jawa. Her internet, she lives in another city scarred by war. She lives in Safida, Syria. When she did her final presentation at our global datathon, she did 100%, her internet cut off 3 times, but she still won. Not because we gave her a chance, we gave her a charity, but because we gave her a chance to see the world, what she actually was, brilliant and unstoppable. So when marginalized communities like that gain these kind of skills, they don't just understand the future, they begin to forecast it. So, if you've ever given an opportunity that changed your life, you already understand what we're trying to do. Because the future doesn't start with technology, it starts with human will. So we'd like you to partner with us, collaborate in different projects, give us data sets to solve your problems at our global datathons, where hundreds of people participate from all around the world. And teach our courses, because we need global experts who are already doing it to the most rural communities in all corners on the planet. Ours is not a charity, it's smart economics. So I welcome you to join us in this movement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mike Goodchild, founding director of the National Center for Geographic Information and Analysis. It's been mentioned several times in my talks and Mae Yuan's talks. He founded geographic information science, formalized uncertainty scale and spatial logic in GIS, and he pioneered volunteered geographic information. He is recognized as the field's most honored geographer, a fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, a U.S. National Academy of Sciences member, foreign member of the Royal Society of Canada, and many honorary doctorates, and he will be receiving the Cullum Geographical Medal at this meeting. Mike?
Well, thank you very much, Jerry, for that introduction. And it's a great pleasure to be here and to be talking to the American Geographical Society. And I certainly always enjoy an opportunity to come to New York in November. I have been thinking a lot after Budhu's talk. I used to feel when I left a room that I should turn the lights out because that would save the planet. I'm having to rethink that now. I'm not quite sure what I think I'm doing when I turn the lights out anymore. There's been a lot of mention of GeoAI and a lot of discussion of what it may be able to achieve and what it is currently achieving. But it's interesting to me that no one, I think, has yet tried to define GeoAI in this meeting. It's clearly something big, and it's clearly something that's very hard to pin down. So I thought the most useful thing I could do would be to talk about an example, because I think very often examples are the basis of definition. And I want to talk about some work that I've been involved in Seattle in the last little while. This is work of the Washington State Academy of Sciences, WSAS, and it's on the question of how to introduce GeoAI into agriculture in the state of Washington. So what I'm about to say has a lot to do with geography. Clearly, it's a geographical problem. But I want to talk also about some of the caveats, some of the concerns about GeoAI and how they might influence what we're doing. It's a project which will continue as a series of webinars in the new year, and then will culminate in a symposium in the city of Wenatchee in Washington. So by way of background, agriculture in the state of Washington is a very interesting area, and the bringing AI into that mix offers many things. It offers the potential, for example, for dealing with the impacts of extreme weather events, climate change, dealing with global markets and agricultural products, dealing with precision agriculture and the application of fertilizer and irrigation water, many, many aspects of agriculture. But what makes this, I think, extremely interesting is that the state of Washington has over 300 commercial crops. These range from wheat in the Palouse to apples in the Columbia Valley to wine grapes. We grow 90% of the United States hops around the town of Toppenish. Many, many agricultural crops. And so think about for a moment how you would use AI and how you would build a chain all the way from the computer scientist to the farmer. What would the farmer's user experience be like? Would it be, for example, like using ChatGPT is today? What would it amount to in 10 years or 15 years when this idea is built out? I think one of the most interesting questions in this to me as a geographer is the geographic basis of the model training. Because you could say, I want to train my model for agriculture, but clearly I'm not going to deal with all 300 plus crops. So let's just take apples. Over what basis, on what basis should I train my model to deal with apple production? And I could, for example, limit it to the areas of the state of Washington which grow apples, and there are lots of apples growing in the state of Washington. But could I extend it to apples grown in Oregon, or apples grown in Michigan, or even apples grown in Chile, in South America? In each of these cases, I'd be expanding the data basis for my models, but at the same time, I'd be merging more and more heterogeneous information, which may not, in fact, help my model at all. As a geographer, I'm very well aware that the Earth's surface is not uniform. I worry a lot about spatial heterogeneity, and I worry, therefore, about the geographic basis of model training. So that's basically my point, and I'd be very interested in any ideas in the room about this question. What is the geographic basis of training a model, particularly when it's agriculture? I think there are many other related issues. I'm very interested in the user experience and in how the farmer deals with the potential for agriculture. But at the same time, I know that there are many models of what that user experience could be. Should we begin by assuming that the farmer needs to know nothing? This is essentially the strategy for many applications of ChatGPT. The assumption that the user, in fact, knows nothing. Is that true? Is that a fair assumption in the case of agriculture? Or can we somehow train farmers to be critical users, to be aware of the problems I just raised about the geographic basis of training, to be aware of what's often known as VVUQ, validation, verification, and uncertainty quantification. And to be aware that the uncertainty in many of the results that are presented to the farmer is very substantial. So many, many questions. And as an educator, I'm very interested in how this translates into curriculum, how it translates into what gets taught in our universities, and in this case particularly, our agriculture schools. What should we be training? And how do we create a sufficient level of concern and skepticism on the part of the user? Which is patently obvious, I think, in the case of ChatGPT, but will be, I think, even more obvious in the case of agricultural applications. So thank you very much for your attention. I think this is a very interesting idea of descending into a very practical application of GeoAI. Thank you.
John, has he left the room? Oh, there you go. I will leave it to your discretion. Do we have any time for, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you for this presentation.